Hi, everybody. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. It's a whopping 1 degree here in Iowa City. How is everybody tonight? I probably look a little strange. I'm standing up tonight because it was easier for me to lay this quilt out on my uh, cutting table so that I laid it out on the cutting table. So I'll be turning the microphone or the camera around here in a minute. So how is everybody? Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of people here. Look at there. So nobody's watching the Super Bowl, huh? I don't, I'm not a big football fan, so there's a football player though from that was at the University of Iowa that's playing on the, I think it's in the Buccaneers, isn't it today? I thought that was kind of neat. So is everybody ready to put the embellishments on their quilt tonight? The embellishments for this quilt are a little easier than some of them, so there's not quite as many. So we'll have a short class tonight. But I just wanted you to be able to see how to do these. I did some stuff differently than normal. Is everybody able to hear me okay? Oh, Denise says the football game's on, but she's not really watching it. Well, I've never really watched a Super Bowl. I'm not a football fan, so I don't really watch football. So I have always I've been to a couple of Super Bowl parties, but I just went for the food. A couple of my friends are really good cooks, so I went for the food. Oh, cool. So Lynn's got her quilt almost done. Yeah, so I got my quilt done. Everybody's hearing me okay? Great. Awesome. So anyway, I'm standing in front of my cutting table tonight to do this, and it was just easier for me to lay the quilt out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around. You watch the commercials. That's what everybody says the commercials are good, but I've never really even watched that. So I didn't figure we'd have a lot of people here tonight because I have a feeling people will watch it later because they're all watching the football game. So that's fine. Over my what? Oh, cool. The plane's cool. Hi, Claire. That's cool. Yeah, so it's down in Tampa. I watched the commercials. Yeah, the commercials are kind of neat, evidently. I've seen a few of them, but over the years they kind of play them and they put them on YouTube and stuff. So I've seen some of them, but I've never really watched the game. Oh, cool. Yep, yep. Patricia, I'll have the thread. I'm not. I think I put it in the box to go down on. Excuse me, to go down on Tuesday. So yes, it is very cold, Marianne. It was 1 degree when I started, and now it is 0, according to my thermometer outside. So I'm glad to be inside where it's 70, so I'm good in here. So all right, well let's just turn this around, and we will start working on these embellishments. It's really fun to do these. I don't do them the way they tell you to do them. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to the embellishments because it takes a while. I don't like to hand sew. So a lot of my embellishments I actually do glue on. I mean, these are probably not. Oh, the most of these are not going to get washed. I'm not going to wash these quilts because of all those embellishments. I mean, it's like I'm sure I never will. These are wall quilts. So, but anyway, this one is actually Judy's. So I'll show you some of the pictures and stuff that I'm going to put on. I have another wall hanging to finish up. I just need to finish the little string on it for the pictures. But this one's for Judy. But I'll show you what I was working on today. So the class at the end of the month, I think it's the 28th. The 28th. Yes. So we're going to do a scan and cut class, and so we're going to make this card. And I was very proud of myself. Lynn would have been very proud of me. I actually got the card made. I'm not a card maker. Got the card made, and I got the little sentiment inside. And then I put a little back on to make it pretty on the back. So it's got a layer on the back. So this is what we're going to do. I'm also going to, before the class, I'm going to put up a couple of videos about how to create this file. I'm going to give everybody the file, but I'm going to put it up so that you know how to create it yourself in the software. So that'll be like I can't do both in the same live. So I decided I would do the pre-recorded software class videos that I did some years ago when I did a class with this, and then we will actually do the cutting in live on the class. So anyway, this is what we're going to do at the end of February for a scanning cut class. So that's something I've been working on today. All right, and I've been finishing this up. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the quilt. So the quilt's all quilted. Got it all done this week, and then I got the binding on, so the binding's all on and everything. It is easier to do the embellishments at the very end. So like if you can get all your binding on and everything before you try to do the embellishments, just because you have to handle the quilt, you know, to get the binding on and stuff, and then you might mess up your embellishments. So I always wait till I'm completely finished with the quilt, and then I go ahead and do the embellishments. So the embellishments are in the back of the book, number 40, page 42. So we'll just kind of go through them in order. There's just a couple little pages with the embellishment information. So we'll talk about it. And I did kind of do my own twist on these. So, okay. So it says tie bows at both ends of the twine. This is the first part right here. And they do this twine up here. I don't know if you can see it. I'll go a little closer. Here's the twine. And this is going to be to hang your pictures on. Okay, now I did this before class just because I have to hand stitch these. So what I did is I just tied a bow. See if I can get the camera a little bit closer to the bows. Okay, so I tied a bow at each end of the string, and I just kind of looked at the picture in the book to see about where to put it so that it kind of runs across, you know, from one side of the block to the other. And then with these, I was going to glue them, but they just wouldn't hold well enough and keep the knot tied well enough. So what I did is I took some monofilament thread, and this is that Mettler Transfill. This is like the best kind of monofilament. It works really well on the machine, and you can put it in your bobbin too. And so I took that and I sewed these on to the quilt. And I just did that before class so I wouldn't have to sit here and struggle with the hand sewing in front of all of you. I'm not a very good hand sewer, so it makes me nervous to have to hand sew in front of you. I still have to a little bit tonight. So anyway, I got that little string on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of other embellishments, and we'll come back, and then we're going to hang some pictures on here and then a heart on here. Okay. Now the second embellishment, so that one's an easy one, just to put the string across that top big block. And I thought this was a real pretty decorative fill that I used for that block. So it turned out really pretty. It's kind of feathery, and I thought it looked really cute. And then the second embellishment says cut felt hearts using the template below. Copy the template onto a separate paper, pin paper on felt, cut hearts on the lines. Well, you know, we have these really cool things called scanning cuts. And so I took this piece of paper and I just printed this page off. I just copied just this little template thing. And I scanned it into my scan and cut and made all these little hearts so that I could cut them out with my scan and cut. But one of the things that it tells you to do is to attach the hearts and I'll pull a heart up here in a second. It tells you to attach the hearts by sewing through the center right here and just sew them on, and then they'll stick up a little bit. But a lot of and I don't know if you can see in the book here, but it kind of shows them right here. So they make them a little bit dimensional. But I struggled with that because a lot of the quilts that I've seen had the felt had been handled, and it was all kind of roughly and kind of raggedy looking on the edges, and I really didn't want that to be like that. So I made a little adjustment. So what I did is I took this template, and I went ahead and scanned this into my scan and cut, and I made my cut files out of that. And what I ended up doing, I wanted to iron these hearts onto my quilt so that they wouldn't get all raggedy edged and everything. And I thought, well, how can I do that to make it really easy? Well, what I ended up doing is I used on the back of my felt, and you can probably see it if I can turn it over, on the back of my felt, see that shiny stuff? I put a piece of Heat and Bond Ultra on the back of my little piece of felt here, okay? And this is permanent bond, Heat and Bond. So this permanently bonds. So what I can do is I can just iron it onto the quilt and it'll stay there. And it's not the kind that you sew through. You just iron it on. So what I did is I took a piece of this, put it on the back of my felt before I put it in the scan and cut. I scanned this little template so that I could have the size hearts that they suggested. And then I actually, if you can see, I added a second big heart, because the big heart right here is supposed to hang up here on the string like this. So it's supposed to hang by one of the little clothespins. So, but I didn't want it to be shiny on one side. So what I did is there was plenty enough fabric or felt in this case, to make two of these. And so what I'm going to do, and I'll just do this right now, I'm going to put them together with, you know, the Heat and Bond sides together, and I'm just going to iron them together so that it's two-sided. So we'll kind of rotate over here towards the ironing mat, and I'm just going to I've got all my stuff sitting over here, so I'm just going to lay this down. I'm going to get my heart all organized here. And, oops, second here, got to get it, probably should put my glasses on tonight. It's kind of dark in here. Okay, I'm going to lay it down on my ironing mat. I've got my little iron here that's real hot, and I'm just going to go ahead and you have to kind of hold it on there for a minute because it's kind of thick. And I'm just going to adhere those two hearts together because they both have high heat and bond. And that way I will have a thicker heart, and it's going to be beautiful on both sides. Let's go ahead and turn it over on the other side here. Give it a little shot with the iron. But this seemed to work pretty well. I did this with my other quilt, and even though the hearts are not dimensional, you know, they don't stick up, they're also not going to get all frayed on the edges. So we'll go ahead and let this cool, and once it cools, it's going to be a little stiffer. It's a little soft right now. But those two pieces of Heat and Bond are now attached together, and now I have a heart on both sides. So there was plenty enough room on here. After I scanned it, I just moved them down so that I had plenty enough room to get a second big heart out of there. Okay, and they always give you plenty of material. And when I did this, I was going to talk you through when I did this. So I scanned it in, you know, and got my designs. Then what I did, you know, I have my Heat and Bond on the back. But what I did when I cut felt, most of the time I like to cut it right side up. You know, fabric, we generally cut it face down. But the felt will stick too hard to the mat and it gets messy. So what I do is I take the Heat and Bond, the paper, off the Heat and Bond. Jackie says, I respect that you break the rules. I do. So, but there's just some things that I just thought it would work better for me. So I took the Heat and Bond paper off of this, and then on my standard mat, not the fabric mat, the standard mat, and it has to be, you know, it has to be sticky. You know, it can't be like a really, really old one that is not sticky at all, but it has to be pretty sticky. This sticks to that standard mat really well, and then I stuck that down, and then I cut them right side up. And this really holds it in place, that Heat and Bond, because it's kind of shiny and it really sticks to the mat. So anyway, that's how I cut it. If you have questions about that, you know, text me or message me through Facebook, and I'll explain it a little bit more. But that's how I did the cutting. Is I did it with the scan and cut, took the paper off, put it on the standard mat, and put this down, and it cut beautifully for my hearts. Okay. So with that being said, instead of sewing these on, we're going to place them on the quilt. And I've got an ironing pad underneath here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little closer. These are the two blocks. So what we want is these little hearts are spilling out into this envelope down here from this jar. Okay? So there's all these different sizes. And the big one is over here, and that's going to be up at the top. So let's get all these little hearts over here. And I'm going to look at the picture in the book. That's how I did it before. So we'll just get the picture here. Make sure I got all my hearts. I think so. All right, so I'm just going to kind of look at my picture here, and it shows kind of one of the medium hearts like falling out of the jar here. And so what I did is I just kind of made it look like they did here. You know, here's these two kind of medium-sized ones. There's kind of two kind of medium-sized ones here. So this one was kind of like around in here. You know, it was kind of like over here by the other block. And then this one was kind of down here, like in this area. And then there's some of these smaller ones then. I think it was a small one here by the, you know, that was kind of here by the envelope. And then, let's see, this one looks good here. Could be a little closer maybe. And then, you know, there's one that's kind of down along here on the side. And then, let's see, then there was one. Do I get them all? There's one, two. These are the ones. Oh, here. Then there's one in the middle. Right. So these are the ones that are done in the applique. These are the glittery ones. And then they did one kind of here, and they did one here. Oh, I think I missed one right here. Here we go. This one kind of went like right in here. Okay. So it looks like they're spilling out into the quilt from the jar down into the letter. Okay. So I just kind of, you know, kind of followed the picture, and then I took my little iron. So we'll grab this little iron here. Hopefully it'll reach. And I'm just going to, now up here, be careful, because, you know, I have to remind myself that's vinyl, so you don't want to touch that. So let's start down here. And this is vinyl here, so don't touch this. So we're just going to take this little hot iron, and I've got my little iron set, I think, to about the highest it'll go. And just hold it down on there. I might actually get a pressing cloth so that I don't do anything weird to my, well, I think it'll be okay, because it sticks pretty quick. But I just have to, because it's hard for me to see where the glitter vinyl is and stuff if I have a pressing cloth on there. So you just got to be careful of that glitter vinyl and the vinyl of the jar. So remind me when I get up to the jar, be careful. There we go. These two. So we'll just press them on here. I'm awful close to that red heart. You got to be careful. All right, so this one here, I did put it a little lower than it showed on the thing, but I didn't want to touch that vinyl, so I have to be careful of the vinyl here. But I thought this looked good, and like I said, I saw several quilts that people had left these three-dimensional, and they appeared to be somewhat raggedy on the edges, and I didn't really want my quilt to be like that, so I thought, well, maybe I'll just iron them on. And then they won't, then the edges are protected, you know, with the heat and bond, and it makes it nice and strong, and then it stays on well. Okay. And I may have to go back and iron these just a little bit after class, just to make sure I got them on there really good. They usually stick pretty well. But I know I had to go back and kind of iron them again because I had a couple loose edges. But that looks pretty good. All right. So that's how I put my hearts on. And see, it looks like it's scattering down into the, they look like they're pretty good on there. You can kind of tell if you wiggle them a little bit. This one here looks like it might need a little shot again. But this Heat and Bond Ultra really sticks really well, so you should be good with them staying on well. All right. So there's my hearts. They don't push up, but I liked them this way because then I thought the felt looked nicer. Because I also noticed the felt issue with the typewriters. So we're going to talk a little bit about the typewriters too. Next. And these typewriters, that's the other thing that I was noticing, you know, these little things here were made out of felt, and the typewriter, the little felt pieces were looking kind of raggedy along the edges and stuff. So, because, you know, you had to handle them. So I'm going to trim I've got some little raggedy edges on here, I'm just going to trim that off just a little bit on these and make sure they look nice on here. But then what I thought I'd do, since it's all quilted and everything, this worked really well. The other thing I noticed is that people's papers were like hanging like this. They were all hanging down like this, and you were seeing the backs. So I thought, well, I don't want that. So I just took some hot glue. Now hopefully this will work. I have a really short cord on this. Just a second. Okay. So I took a little hot glue, and I just put a couple of dots on the back of the, like back behind where the papers are. Just a couple little dots. And then I stuck the papers up to it so that they stay up, because I wanted them to stand up like this. And now there's not too much that will flop down, so they stayed up nice and straight. Okay, so I'm going to do this one too. I'm just going to pull this down. I'm putting it on the white right behind the paper. And just put like 3 little dots. You don't need very much. It's just something to hold it up though. There we go. Then they look nice. They look nice and neat, because a lot of the ones I saw were really floppy looking. Okay, see if you can see. I'll turn this up just a little bit. And here's the other one here, right here. So we'll go and put a little dot of glue in here on each one. I may have to. My glue gun has a very short cord. There we go. So put this up, and see now. Then you don't see the backs. And then my little typewriters, and it didn't hurt. You can't see it or anything. And they stay up nice and straight along that sashing. So that's what I did with my typewriters. Okay, so the second here, we'll put this back over here again, because we're going to have to do, okay, so then what you do up here, I'm going to put these on at the end, but what you do with the other big hearts after I ironed the 2 together. Second here, I got hot glue string. So here's my heart. See, it's beautiful on both sides because I ironed them together with that heat and bond in there. Okay. Then they have these cute little pink clothespins. So you can hang the clothespins or hang the little heart up here. And I'm going to have to move this, so I'll take these off, but I wanted to show you. So then I had a couple of pictures that I'm going to put these on my dad's wall hanging. I thought he'd like that because there's a picture of he and Mom. Those are their high school graduation pictures from 1945. So I thought he'd like those. And they were colorized like that. They both had them, they were like colored. That's what they did with all those black and white photos at that time. And so they both were pretty good pictures. So, but then I'll hang that like that across that string at the top like that. Okay? So that's what I did with the heart that I adhered it together. Okay? So are there any questions about the hearts? Does that make sense what I did? I cut them with the scan and cut. You can sure just cut them out with scissors. That's fine. That works just fine. But you might want to put the heat and bond on the back first, because if you want to iron them on, put the heat and bond back on them first, and then you can just make a pattern. It tells you in here what to do. Make the pattern and just cut them out with scissors. That's fine too. But, I like my scan and cut, so I got it done on the scan and cut really fast. And let's see, attach the largest heart to the Love Your Selfie block with the clothespins. That's up here. And then you want to put a couple of pictures up there. Okay. The one at the store, I put a picture of me and my dad together and a picture of my cats. So that one's, and I thought this one I'm going to give to Dad. This one will go on the wall hanging I have over on the other side. So, okay. So we got our little hearts on here, but I just did them a little different so that they stay on really well and they're nice and neat looking. And then I glued these little papers up so that they would stand upright. Okay. Now, what does it say next? Yep, got the attach. That was number 4, was attaching all the little hearts over here. Okay, we got that. And they tell you to sew them on, but like I said, I'm kind of lazy and don't like that. So I wanted to use the glue. Okay, then let's go ahead and take these off so I can move the quilt. And I'll put them back on. I don't want to bend my pictures all up, so we'll take these off for a second. Okay. Then, when you get down a little further here, get this out of the way. when you get down a little further on the quilt, you need to do these little mailboxes. So the mailboxes they gave you, and right in the design, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's like a little mark where they tell you to sew the button on. And then you put the little flag right here. There's a buttonhole, and you're supposed to open up the buttonhole and button it on. Well, a lot of the ones that I saw, the little flags were like this all the time because they were hanging from the button, and I was like, I don't like that either. So I got really, I did my little thing here, and right where that little place is, I went ahead. I didn't open the buttonholes. I just left the buttonholes closed, and I took my hot glue gun, and I put glue right there, and I'm going to glue my flag on so that it stays up and is nice and straight, because I wanted it to look pretty. Okay? Well, then I kind of still wanted the buttons there, because I thought, well, that looks kind of plain. Still kind of wanted those buttons there. In fact, I'm going to put just a little bit more glue, just up a little higher, so that it doesn't flip over for me at all. So we'll just put a little bit right there, so it stays nice and straight. And then I thought, well, I still like those little buttons, because they do those darling little buttons. So what I did, I don't know if you can see this little button. If I hold it still enough, you might be able to. Can you see I stuck some thread through the eyes of the button? I went ahead and took just some white thread so that it looks like there's thread in there. And then I'm going to glue that over the buttonhole. So then, and you don't want to put too much glue in here, so I remember I had a little trouble doing this, so we'll see how I do with this tonight in front of you. Put a little glue on the button, I think. You don't need very much. And then I'm going to put the button right over where the buttonhole would be, so that it looks like it's been, and then it looks like it's been sewn on because it's got the glue in there, or it's got the thread in there. So that way then my little flags look really cute, and they're standing upright instead of flopping over. Because a bunch of the ones I saw, that they were kind of like they had kind of curled over, and they weren't pretty. So I wanted it nice and straight. Okay, so let's do this one. Do the same thing. Whoops, I got to get my glue gun over here. Sorry. I have a lot of cords here tonight. Okay, so we'll do this. I'm going to put some glue right here, and I might put another little bit up here so that it stays upright, and about right there, so it's nice and straight. I always have all the little glue pieces, and then of course there's cat hair on everything, I always have help. And then we're going to grab another little button. So I put more, I put the thread in the buttonhole, so it looks like it's got thread in it. So we'll put this on. You don't need too much glue. Whoops. I have a hard time with the buttons because they're so small. Hopefully it's not going to glue to my finger. These are hard to hang on to. They're really small buttons. All right. So I'm going to put my glasses on. I got a little bit of glue there that I can get off, I think. I'll get that off later. I got a little glue on there, but I think I can get it off. Yep, it'll come off. Okay, so there's another little button. Okay, got our little flag on, and then we got one more over here to do. And let's see, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. So I'll put this one on this one. And see, then also they won't fall over because, I didn't use matching bobbin thread. I just used regular bobbin thread in mine. I think you're supposed to change the bobbin thread, but, if you glue them down, you're not going to see the backs. So I was lazy and didn't do that. All right, so put this on. Right there. Get the strings off. Yep, so I'll fix this little button. I need to get a little bit of glue off of there, but I can get that off. Okay, there's that. And then we'll put the other little button on. I got strings hanging on me. Okay, so here's the little button. And like I said, if you think you're going to wash this, I would tell you to go ahead and sew these on. But I don't imagine this will ever get washed, so put that on. Well, you can see what I, can't really see what I'm doing, can you? They do though. Don't the embellishments add so much to it? It's so much fun, and I really enjoy the embellishments now. At first, when I started doing these, a couple of the bigger quilts that I did, oh my gosh, the embellishments were just so time consuming that even just to sew them, but it does really make a difference. Okay, so I have a little cleanup to do on my black, but I'll get that cleaned up after class. Okay, so there's my little buttons and my little flags on my mailboxes. Don't they look cute with the little buttons on there? Okay, so we're getting close to being done here. This was a really fun. These were easy to do. There wasn't so many embellishments on this one. So now some of the people over here on this mailbox, there's a zipper in here, and you can put in. You can put something in this if you want to put a little letter in there. I didn't put anything in mine. I thought this is Judy, so I thought I'll let her decide if she wants to put something in there. But if you could put a little note in there, it'd be cute. You can open the zipper and do that. Okay. And the last block here is these little flowers. So we're going to do this pull. Now I have trouble with these pull flowers. So I am learning better how to do them. I'm having a little better luck with them after I watched a video on Kimberbell. So I did a couple of the flowers already. I made a couple of them so that I didn't have to do them all in front of you. But so I have my red one. So here's the red one all done. Oops. The red one and the blue one. These were the ones that were the hardest for me, these bigger ones. So I did these two before class. And then they're going to go up here. But then this white one, I'll show you. So with the pull flowers, let me push this up just a little bit because then I can get up on the red so you can see this white flower a little bit. Okay. So the video that I watched, it really helped me with it because I got to find a needle here too because I'll need that. Second, I'm gluing my glue gun to my table. Okay, so I'm going to get this open so I can get a needle out when I need it. Now, what they said in the Kimberbell video that I watched is, one end of these has a knot in it. So this is the knot right here. And sometimes they will let go, but most of the time they've been pretty good. But the trick is, with this, is to pull from the other end. Here's the other end that has the string. And just gather it up. Now these are the right length. They just gave you the length they recommended for this quilt. Sometimes you do have to cut these so that they are the length that you're supposed to have them. But what I've learned while I've been doing this is sometimes, like this one's a little curly. So if I go down here and I put a needle or a pin in the end where the knot is, just so I know where it's at, I can pull from the other end, and then I've got this, then I can still see that knot. And that helps me to find it later, because what they said is to put the needle, like tie it together where the knot is. So I'm going to pull this. That looks pretty good. And then let me go get a needle here, because we're going to need that in a second. This is a needle with a pretty big eye in it, because this string's a little thicker. See if Jan can thread it. Okay. So I got my needle threaded, and then what I want to do is I want to bring this around to where that knot is, and I want to be able to put the needle through that area where the knot is. So I'm watching where that is, so I can bring my needle through that, and then I can finish gathering. And that seems to work a little bit better for me. These are still a little hard for me to do. But I found that everything turns out better if I get it in where that knot is, and see, I can still see it right here. I know where the knot is right here. Then I need to knot this off with a needle. So I got my needle on here. And as I've done a few more of these, I'm getting a lot better at them. So that one turned out pretty good. So then I'm going to go ahead and knot this up. I kind of go through the middle a little bit from both sides. I'm just going to go through, and then I kind of got it scrunched, and I want these little ends. Sometimes these little ends want to pop out for me, so if I go down, and I can kind of tuck them down with the needle so that they kind of tuck to the back. And then we'll go a couple of stitches the other way, and then I'll do a double knot here. So then it's knotted together well. But that's what really helped me, is I put a needle or a pin at the end of it so I can keep track of where the knot is, and then I can. It's easier after you put them on, actually, to kind of fluff them up. So then I can tell where that knot is, so I can put my needle through right there, and then I pull it tight, and they turn out pretty good then. So I thought all of my flowers turned up pretty well. So this is the red one. This one was a little hard because it's kind of stiff. And then this is the big one. And this one has such big petals. This one I felt was hard. That's why I wanted to do them beforehand, because I struggle with these bigger ones. And this one's kind of stiff. But I thought they turned out well. But that's how I've been doing them, is I pull it, and then I try to get the needle through right where the knot is, and then I pull and finish the gathering. Okay? So, oops, second here. Then what I do is I cut these off. I cut the string off down here after I've got it tied in a knot. Let's try one more knot here, make sure I've got it tied well. And then I'll cut the string off. Oops. This one's kind of hard because it's so stiff, too. All right. So there's my little white flower. Okay, and then I will trim this off. Get this needle put away before I stab myself. Okay. Then, of course, the next thing they say is to sew these on the quilt. Well, me being me, I like to glue them, because I don't like to have to sew by hand. I just don't do well with the sewing by hand. So I'm going to pull this a little closer so that I don't want it to touch anything. Just a second here, make sure. Okay, so then you can see this block. So this is the little block that we did that just has the little stems on it. So we're going to put those embellishments on there. Now the blue flower goes here at the top. So I'll go ahead and we'll glue this one about right in here. Okay. Second, I got to untie my glue gun again. So I wish I had just a little bit more cord. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the glue on the back of the flower, and you're gonna need quite a little bit so that it sticks really well. And then I'm gonna set it down on that stem, and then push my finger down in the center of it, and then we can fluff it in a second. So when we need to refluff a little bit, make sure it's stuck on there good. But put a good dab of glue on these, because you want these to stay on there really well. Okay. Did you use monofilament with the pull flowers? I missed that. No, it's not monofilament. There's a string in them, Lynn. There's a string that's already in them, and it's kind of a thicker like decorative string. It's stronger too. So no, it's not monofilament. But I am not gluing these. I'm gluing these on, not sewing them to the quilt. All right. So then the red one. I think the red one goes over here. I'm looking at my book here. So here's the book, and yeah, the red one goes over here. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put ample glue on the back of them, okay? And I'm going to put my red flower over here, press it down, and we can fluff it in a minute. Okay, just make sure it's good and stuck down, okay? And then the little white one's going to go down here on this little teeny little teeny stem down here. So I'll put my, don't need as much glue on this one because it's small. So we'll put a good daub on there though. And then the little white flower goes right here. Now that one wants to squish really well, so I remember I had to be careful not to squish it too much. There we go. Now let's go ahead and we'll fluff our flowers a little bit in the center after they're glued and they're dry. Okay. And there is our flowers. Those are really fun to do. And like I said, when I started pulling, I waited, I kept track of that knot, and if it gets really it gets really like kind of trying to twirl on me, I put a pin in so that I put it right where that knot is so I can pull it a little bit. Oh, it's hot glue. It's hot glue. It's just hot glue. I know that the thing is, if you were to wash these with all these embellishments on it, you'd have to probably remove the embellishments anyway, whether you used fabric glue or not. So if I ever have to wash this quilt for some reason, I'd probably remove everything and then just put it back on. Because I don't think that the embellishments would go through the wash anyway, so. Okay, and I think the only thing I have left then is to add my pictures when I do my, so this is, like I said, this is Judy's, so she's going to be able to put her own pictures on here. But there's all those embellishments. Doesn't it make the quilt look cute? I'm going to hold it up so I'm going to, maybe if I tip this camera towards me, and then I'll hold the quilt up so you can see it. Because the embellishments really do make a big difference. Okay. So I don't have the pictures on yet, but I'll put the pictures on. And then there's the little hearts falling out of the jar. I don't think I can hold it up high enough. And then the bottom, here's our little flowers. Here's the little flowers, aren't they cute? Oops, second here, I can't get it. Let's try laying it down again. The flowers, I think you can see better laying down. And here's the flowers, the little flower box turned out so cute. And yeah, you put the little flowers on there, and then all of a sudden those little stems just totally make sense, don't they? And then the little mailboxes with the flags on them. So I just thought this was an adorable quilt. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed quilting this one. This one I actually quilted a little differently than the original one. This one I used again the Kimberbell design in the border instead of doing the border function on my machine. So mine I have feathers in here instead of this, but I just thought these were darling, so I went ahead and I asked Judy if it was okay if I tried this one, so she liked this one. So I went ahead and used that, and I put the feathers in this block still up here. Put the feathers in this block up here, that plain block, so that's real fancy. And I also used, on this one I used Hobbs batting. I like the Hobbs better than the original quilt that I did because it does make it just a little bit poofier, has a little bit more loft to it than the other batting that I used. So I thought this one turned out really cute, and I think Judy you'll like it. So. Oh, does it need a quilt label like a traditional quilt? Well, Pat, you can do one if you like. I know I'm a terrible person. I never make quilt labels for anything. I have so many samples and so many quilts. I don't have one quilt label on any quilt I've ever made. So, and I think, yes, I think you should probably put one on. I think it would be cool to put one on. Then at least you remember when you made it. Listing the name of it, my name, and then when you create it. Yeah, that's what you really should do. I mean, I make so many quilts and stuff. I just really don't. Yes, don't you love that? I just love that. That was what I did last week. You know, I showed you how I did that, and that is one of the Kimberbell designs. But I used this one traditional because, of course, you know I was quilting through all the layers, and I just think it's adorable. And then the outside border is the other one I like. So this one right here is the one with the little birds. I don't know if you can see it very well. The one with the little birds and the little letters on it. And then let me get you my other my other wall hanging. I finished the wall hanging too. I just have to put the little string on it. I got the wall hanging done though. So this was my quilt as you go wall hanging that I did in the class. And so, you know, here's my borders are the same borders, and this one's the same border. Okay. And then this one is all done with the quilt as you go. And then this one I took my backing and I just stitched in the ditch on the back with my monofilament. And I think the backing looks very nice. I really like the shape flex being on there because it makes my back so much cleaner and nicer looking. And this one has the black binding on it instead of the white because I didn't have any more of that white to put on the binding. But I really like both of these. This was such a fun project. And wasn't that quilt as you go fun? I wasn't sure what I prefer quilts done the way I did this one by quilting through it, but this quilt as you go method, I just love this little wall hanging, and I just think it looks really nice. So I've got two of these also. I'm going to give one to my dad with the pictures that I showed you. So these two are going to go to Dad. The pictures of he and Mom, and then I'll put a heart in there for him, and I'll give that one to him. So I also bought, oh yeah, I bought these. I mean, I have all of their quilting designs now because I'm finding that I can use them traditionally also. So I can use a combination of things, and I just really like them. They're very cute. All of them, you know, they fit in well with the quilts. So when we do, we're going to do Happy Easter, the bench pillow. We're going to do that in March, and that'll be one of the next things I'm going to work on now. Since this is done, I will make a Happy Easter, and we're going to do the whole thing with Quilt as you go. So that'll be really fun because the whole thing will be done that way. Yeah, I'm really liking the designs. I thought the designs were adorable, and they were easy to use. And I think the hardest part about the Quilt as you go is actually some of the assembly because it's a little harder to turn your seam allowances and stuff. You know, you have to open them, and you know they're only 1/4 inch, so it's a little stiff with that extra bulk in there. But once I got everything flat, I think it looks great, and it's sewed up so nice on the back with the shape flex on the backing fabric. And I just finished these up last night. This one up last night. So I'm going to go up to see Dad tomorrow. So I thought I'd put the little string across, and I'll take this up to him so he can hang it up somewhere. I think he'll like it. So with the pictures of he and Mom on it. And I have to go cut out another heart. I realized I didn't have enough hearts. So I have to give one heart to Judy so she can put her own heart, her own pictures on, but I have to make another heart. So okay. So next week will be, what is next week? Oh, next week we're going to do software. So we're going to do, I've got it right here. We're going to do that little cute as a button. So it's software class next week. We won't have a sewing class next week. We're going to do cute as a button. I just wanted to do a little quilt, a little software digitizing. You know, do a little digitizing from start to finish. So this one is the one without the knockdown stitch, or what they call nap blocker. And then this one has the nap blocker behind it, and see how much different it looks. So we're going to talk about that nap blocker. I love that when you're doing fuzzy stuff, because it really makes the design pop out more. You don't lose little elements in the design. So it's all laying on top of stitches. So we're going to do this next week, and then the following week will be the project bag. So that's on the 21st. So here's the project bag. We'll make this on the 21st. Here's the project bag. And so if you haven't gotten your Pioneer Woman quilted placemats, you can get them at Walmart, you know, or you can order them if you're not going into Walmart. I just order them and go pick them up. But they have 2 or 3 different ones that you can get. So we're going to make this cool bag, and this will hold your orange pop rulers for those of you who have those Kimberbell orange pop rulers. This works really well for that, and then you'll have a nice little home for those. I just like the vinyl on the front so that you could see through and see what's in there. So that's the next one, and then the last week in February will be the little happy birthday card I showed you earlier. So, okay. So Are there any questions about Love Notes? Did everybody enjoy Love Notes? I just was so glad to get to do it. It was really a fun quilt. We need just one or two, what, Margaret? Margaret said something. But I think this was a really fun project. It's the quilts. I love the size of these quilts. The original quilts that Kimberbell did, and I've done some of those. They were very large. I mean, they were like lap sized, so they were almost too large for the wall. You had to have a pretty good size. Did you create your own binding on the bag? Oh, yes. Lynn, you mean on this bag? This bag? Yes, I just used, that's part of you need a fat quarter. If you didn't remember the bag, I remember I put in the Dropbox, I put up a PDF file with all the stuff you need to make this bag. So yes, I just made my own binding. Oh, placemats. Yes, yes. So the placemats, you just need one. You just need one placemat because you actually are going to cut off a little section. This is the bottom part, is just part of the full placemat. So yeah, you just need one for a bag. If you want to make more, just buy 2 or 3 placemats. Now they do have some that are not quilted. I would highly recommend the quilted ones because they have more body to them. Okay, so make sure you buy their. I think I put it in the instructions, the exact name that was on the tag. So I think it's Pioneer Woman Quilted Placemat is what they called them. So the quilted ones have body to them. There's one or two, they make a couple that are just kind of like softer, and they're not going to make as nice a bag. I mean, they'll still work, but they're not going to make as nice a bag. So, okay. Yeah, so that's in the Dropbox. Dropbox is the link to it is the very first um, post on the group, and you just click the link and it'll take you in, and I think it says project bag. So it's just a PDF file that I made so that you know what you need to get. The instructions are basically, I just made this up kind of, so I kind of made it up out of 2 or 3 different patterns I saw, and I'm just going to have a video. You'll have a video to do it with, but I wanted to give you the cutting instructions. So that's what I wrote up on the PDF file. So, okay. So are there any questions about what's coming up? We got a bunch of stuff coming up, and then I'm going to start working on Hoppy Easter. So we'll do the little Hoppy Easter bench pillow in March. I might actually move it down one more week so that we'll finish on Palm Sunday, because I'd like to get one more thing in there. So I'll see what happens this week once I start looking at the schedule. So, okay. All right, so it's not quite 7 o'clock. Are there any other questions about Love Notes? So now everybody's going to have their Love Notes done. Yay! I'm glad to get mine done. I got 2 quilts and 2 wall hangings done. So I'm glad I got all mine done. I just have to I'm going to put my string on before I quit for the night. Okay? All right. So next week is software week, so we will be on sessions on software next week, and then the following week will be the project bag. So everybody have a good week, and I will see you next week on sessions on software. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.